So hello, welcome to our podcast. Now, with recent events around the globe, we feel that this spotlight and momentum the climate change movement had has been kind of lost. So we're not undermining those events, but we feel that it's important for everybody to be reminded about climate change and the effects it has on the world. So we're dedicating our podcast to that. So we'll begin by our partner Simone explaining the how climate change works, its
Yeah, so
mechanics.
climate change basically works. Imagine if the planet is a car, right? Imagine being the hottest day of the hottest hour, and you get into a car totally locked down. That is basically what's happened to Earth in this moment, right? So let me explain you for a second. The atmosphere is composed by a 99% of oxygen and nitrogen. The other gases are greenhouse gases. CO2 and methane, water vapor, etc. Right? So what this does is that as the windows of a car, the light enters, and that's energy. But it cannot get out. It cannot get out because the greenhouse gases are containing that radiation and that energy. So energy enters, infrared light stays, and that makes our planet hot when the sun is there, right? What's the problem? The problem is that if we don't have those greenhouse effects, as you can imagine, all the light will go away, and our planet will be 15 degrees Celsius colder, which will basically mean we are in a cold sphere with an inhabitable place. So without greenhouse gas effects, we are dead. Now, with most of our atmosphere being composed of greenhouse gases effect, we are also dead. Venus atmosphere is mostly CO2, a greenhouse gas effect, and it's the hottest planet on the solar system, way more hotter than Mercury. So basically, there's a perfect balance on Earth between greenhouse gases and nitrogen and oxygen in the atmosphere. That's what makes it perfectly balanced and like a thermometer. The problem is that millions of years ago, those greenhouse gases were stuck in the Earth core, below the Earth, right? And with the industrial era and transportation and everything, the humans have reactivated those underground gases and take it in the place where it most hurt, the atmosphere, making a threat that the Earth is going hotter and hotter again to register levels that has never been seen in millions of years. So this means that the Earth will be 5 degrees Celsius hotter. And that's alarming because the difference between the glacial era and today is just 5 degrees Celsius. So imagine 5 degrees Celsius hotter is such a huge deal that it can kill us, human beings, and metabolisms that and species that work in a metaphysic way similar to us. So with climate change in a massive scale, we will be dead, just 5 degrees more than we are right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think there's a big problem there. We're presenting some big problems, social problems that are gonna affect our modern society and humans as we know them. First thing we've seen, the first major catastrophe that can happen. First, natural disasters, earthquakes, for example, tsunamis, and we can see this as effect of the reduction or the increase of the our temperature that it is gonna be unstable. This causes a vulnerability problem, social problem, because man, humans are not gonna live their lives as they should. They're not gonna live as long as they should, and they're gonna be alterated by an external force, as could be claimed the natural catastrophes that can be created as that. And also the currency that we're gonna have, it's a big problem currently as a social problem, because we're losing a lot of resources. We are destroying our own resources and just leave it like that. For example, in Brazil, the Amazonas, some years ago, Bolsonaro, the president, was burning trees just to put some cattle and sell them to the market. we're destroying our natural and most basic resources that we need for living just to get some money because that's all about that our modern world cares money. Okay, thanks. We need some solutions, Juan Daniel and Nicolas. Juan Daniel.
Okay, so before presenting the solutions, I'll present the challenges we need to overcome, in order to be able to present that solution. So there are challenges both in a technical and a societal level, and I'll speak about both. So when talking about the technical level, we need to deal with the main contributors to global warming. So the first main contributor and the most known that needs to be dealt with is the burning of fossil fuels. This is because it releases CO2 pollution into the atmosphere, and because it is widely used and happens pretty much in every country every day. The second main contributor that we need to deal with is deforestation. This is because trees and plants absorb carbon dioxide and release it as oxygen. So if we take them or a large portion of them out of the equation, large amounts of CO2 are released into the atmosphere. The third main contributor that we can mention is massive agriculture and farming. This is because livestock produces methane, and some fertilizers have nitrous oxide, which are both of them are greenhouse gases, which also contribute to global warming. And the last main contributor we can mention that needs to be dealt with is transportation, such as cars, planes, and ships. This is because they contribute a large amount of the pollution present in the world, and they produce crazy amounts of CO2. Now, when we're talking about a societal level, we need to deal with the groups and people that still refuse to believe that global warming is a real deal, or see it as a minor or non-existent threat. So, regardless of all the evidence provided and countless studies carried out, a large percentage of people around the globe still believe that global warming is a sham or not a threat at all. We can point towards a recent survey conducted in 26 countries that shows that an average of 9% of the population of all these countries didn't believe climate change was a threat, and 20% believed there was only a minor threat. So many people underestimating climate change or refusing to believe it is very dangerous will only contribute to climate change, because all that people will not take the necessary steps to release their footprint, and will also most likely not support legislature that will limit climate change on a more not national, international level. So we can also say it's also very dangerous, because within that percentage of people that don't believe it or see it as a minor threat, there are a lot of people with power and decision making in the government. And we can point to examples such as Republican senators Jim Inhofe and Lisa Murkowski of the USA, which have repeatedly questioned and challenged regulations on carbon emissions. Global warming is a very complex issue, and to be able to present a solution, a lot of challenges lie ahead. So now my friend Nicolas will talk about the possible solutions.
All right, thanks, Juan Daniel. So, well, global warming is really a very complex issue that has many factors contributing. So, it's impossible to solve it in just one solution. So, there needs to be at least one solution for each factor that contributes it. So, first with burning fuels, this can be treated by first reducing the amount of electricity produced by gas and coal. In this way, we can reduce the production of greenhouse gases significantly. Second, we can increase the amount of producers of renewable energy, like such as the solar panels or the wind turbines. In this way, resources will be used in a more efficient way, and harmful activities will be reduced significantly. Finally, we could increase the participation of treaties such as the Paris Accords. After after fossil fuels, we will need to deal with the problem of deforestation. So first, we could implement a solution on laws preventing deforestation and punishing it so it will be implemented. This, of course, will need to have a heavy enforcement from enforcement agencies. So, second, obviously, will be reforestation and afforestation programs that could be implemented in places where deforestation has already taken place. And the areas in which the programs are implemented could be made into reserves. Finally, alternatives to products made from trees could be implemented to the market, and the production of products made from trees could be also limited. So after deforestation, the problem that will come will be agriculture. So first, the different stock feeds could be used to help in the reduction on the farming's contribution to climate change. Also, some laws could be implemented to regulate the places where livestock eats and stays, so that farmers limit their damage and destruction of nature. So finally, for the problem of people not believing in climate change, the way to solve this will be through programs implemented by the government. These programs could be presented via television in things like the news, or could also be presented in different popular places around the countries, or the cities around the country where it gets presented. Of them would be to inform people on how bad the situation is with the climate change, and will obviously include statistics to show how are the dangers of the climate change.
Yeah, okay, I agree a lot with all the conclusions that you gave, but also I think, okay, there are some governments that don't have all this mentality of climate change because they need climate change to be fake so they can continue producing, and selling. This is a result of the currently talking about some topic that we talked in another podcast, the Cold War. We've seen that all the capitalist system, economical system, rule through all the world, and the countries that have more radical capitalist systems are just producing and selling. Brazil, United States, China, and these are the countries that produce more CO2 and produce more contamination to the world. We need to rethink this problem. I'm not saying that we should adopt some communist economical politics. I'm not saying that. We just could find a perfect balance between these different systems that had been presented during history. For example, for instance, Europeans in the north, yeah, the Nordic culture uses a lot of mixed programs, economical programs that work, that don't produce that much and just produce the perfect amounts for humans, and that don't create all this contamination. I think we need to do this together. We need to solve this problematic, and we need to do it now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for inviting me for this podcast. Thanks to the ones that are hearing this, and good night.
Thank to you. Good night.
Good night.